The next question is this. The Sugarloaf Elementary School recently proposed eliminating its physical education teacher as a budget-cutting measure. Do you feel that this is advisable or even allowable, given the state-mandated physical education hours?
First of all, if we had real community integrated school-based management, this would, how long do we have?
2 minutes.
You wouldn't have this problem because the community would have been at the table. The involved parents, the civically active people, associations and groups, business partners and sponsors, teachers that live in the community. If we had real community-based schools, they would have had a say in this. And they basically didn't. If you believe some of what you read in the press, which is always a long shot, but sometimes they get it right. And it's been widely reported that the principal made that decision basically on his own. And there are a lot of parents, there was a very boisterous couple of meetings about that, weren't happy about it because they really didn't have a say in it. These are tough times, you got to make some difficult choices. That's why you need all the stakeholders at the table, and you don't. The point of school-based management is not to have 13 Banana Republic dictators as opposed to just one downtown. We need to get rid of both of those scenarios, have all-inclusive community committees and participation to make these kinds of decisions in tough times, and then you get a lot more buy-in and a lot less controversy.
I am so glad that you asked this question. I sit as the chair of the School Health Advisory Committee, and I've been on that committee for the past 6 years. The week that that decision was made, the school board approved our policies. In those policies, it calls for 120 minutes for elementary, 150 minutes of PE for middle school, and 180 for high school. In high school, they can opt out. There's no way for any of our schools to meet these standards with a certified physical education instructor. Okay, we have right now our elementary school, specifically for Sugarloaf. We have teachers in the classroom who are not certified PE teachers going to teach PE. They are going to take the kids out and basically have organized recess for them. And for it to count towards that, they have to have 30 minutes uninterrupted. The board just did not look at their own policies. They're looking to put that in place through a system that skirts around the issue. Health classes are great. Absolutely, we need them in the school. That's what I do for a living. We actually provide some of those classes in the classroom. I've taught in the classroom. My staff is in there every single year. It doesn't take away from the policy of what they're supposed to have and who's supposed to teach it. There's one physical education instructor there, and it was wrong to do that.
I've been lucky enough to teach at the junior high school level and the middle school level. I taught at Glen Archer a long time ago when I was at junior high school, and I taught at Sugarloaf School. I can tell you beyond any doubt that middle school boys and girls, especially boys, need PE more than they need lunch. If you have them in a classroom environment for 7.5 hours, they can barely handle it at that age. So, to answer your question, PE is very important. I wouldn't approve of it being removed from any middle school.
You're saying it's not advisable. Is it allowable?
As far as I understand it, it's not allowable. It looks to me that they're looking for a way around the rule, as opposed to the letter of the law.
I didn't read the statute. I don't know if it requires a certified PE.
The parents at Sugarloaf School, I went to a meeting up there, they were totally opposed to the move. There wasn't one parent in there that spoke in favor of the move of eliminating PE. And I think it all fell on deaf ears. There was no feedback. And there still seems to be no decision for that. We were promised at one meeting a decision in 2 weeks. It was tied into an alternative education function that they were going to move some students up there. I still have not heard on that decision yet. But I think PE is vital importance to all middle school students.
Yeah, it's obvious to everyone that PE is important, but I think what's important to understand is where Mr. Cunningham's children go to school at Ponciana Elementary, the school is over 600. They have one coach. They have the same number at Sugarloaf, and they had 2 coaches. You see, that's just not fair when one school has 1 coach and another school has 2 coaches. So the principal had to balance his budget, and it was pretty clear that losing that position, that person has a job, and the principal put together a balanced budget for his school. Now, 3 lawyers, one of them should know something about the Florida Constitution. They revised the Constitution in the last revision, and they set class size for every class in Florida. Kindergarten to 3 is 18 to 1, 4 to 8 is 23 to 1, and high school is 25 to 1. It's in the Florida Constitution.
I am not a lawyer, and I want to apologize for that. But I'm not exactly sure what the statute reads. But in the interest of children, in a time when all we hear about is childhood obesity, the safety and the health of kids, this should be a no-brainer. It shouldn't matter what the statute reads. If we're going to truly do what's best for kids, then I think we need to have the people with credentials. How can we ask teachers to teach all day, and then you want them to go outside and run a PE class as well? I think it's unfair, and I think we're not doing what's best for kids. And if we want them to be healthy and productive, they need someone who is trained to teach them in their PE classes.
If Andy's correct that other schools only have 1 PE teacher, it sounds to me like those schools are being shortchanged, especially if they can't provide the necessary ratios of teachers to PE subjects. Now, I don't think that's what Andy was trying to say. What Andy was trying to say, though, is the budget is all important. Wrong. The only reason the school district exists is because of the students. No students, no education, no district. We've got to stop looking at these things as saying, well, other schools get along or limp along with only 1 PE teacher. Why can't you? Well, because maybe somebody was a little brighter at that school and said, we need 2.
Thank you. Florida state statute does require that a teacher be certified in the subject that the teacher is going to be instructing in. The state law is clear. All I can say to the school board is follow the rules. The law says we have to have a certified PE teacher at Sugarloaf. We have to have one, period.
So you came out of retirement. It's not a bad idea to have a lawyer on the school board, because I've seen the school board's lawyer and the school district's lawyer do some things that I thought they ought to go back to law school over. It's a good thing we've got a superintendent coming in that's a lawyer. Maybe he'll won't make the same mistakes the high-paid lawyers made. When I was a kid, we didn't have any of this kind of structured PE. We had what we call a play period. We had 1 employee at the school, and that's all she did, was supervise play periods, and I guess she did some other stuff in the office when we weren't outside just running around playing football, basketball, baseball, swinging, dodgeball, talking to the girls. And we didn't get to do that for 50 minutes. We'd all gone nuts. Like John said, it would have been pandemonium in the class. My second favorite period was lunch. They didn't teach to me. They taught me like I was a robot, like everybody else, like some cookie cutter plan applied to everybody. So I went off and went to Vanderbilt, then I went to law school. I went to law school again. I got 2 law degrees. I got as much education probably as anybody in the school district. Big deal. Did it do me any good? I can't say. I don't know. We don't have any trade schools. But you're worried about PE. This teacher, this principal, he was under a budget. And he had to make a choice, and it came from not below, but from above. And he probably did the best thing he had with what he had. That's my take on it. Unpopular, yeah. You're going to have guys on the school board that do the same kind of unpopular stuff. Okay? And if the law says you got to have 2, then that's what they're going to have to do.
Just a minute, I'm going to agree again with Sloan Bashinsky. Bear with me. I've lived up on Big Pine for 22 years. And when this whole Sugarloaf kerfuffle exploded, I endeavored to help negotiate some kind of a compromise solution. Okay, a compromise solution that would appeal to everybody. Obviously, that didn't work out. But something Sloan said is true, as I kind of bored down on what the situation was there. Whether PE is required by law, or how many minutes is required, or whether you have to have 1 or you have to have 2. And I'm not defending Harry Russell for a minute, but he wound up between a rock and a hard place. And basically, his choice boiled down to, are we going to have PE, or are we going to have art? Now, if I might, what the other schools did was dropped art. Now, that apparently satisfied people. But when you're faced with a decision, do you do art or you do PE, you annoy, let's think of another phrase, you annoy the people who think that art is important. And a whole argument can be made about the importance of art and culture and whatnot, you know, in the school system. And that's really the problem when, as Sloan pointed out, the folks downtown say, here's how much money you got, figure out how to divvy it up. And Harry was stuck between that rock and a hard place because under the teacher contract, he had a senior art teacher that he couldn't remove versus a junior PE teacher that he could remove. Now, am I going to defend it? No, I'm not going to defend it, but I don't know what you do. You know, everything's fine when the budget's increasing, going up, and there's extra money for everything. But when it goes down, you got to cut. And when you cut, you're going to annoy the hell out of somebody. In this case, it was PE. And I've heard excellent justifications. John Welsh put it well about the importance of PE. Not going to argue about that. But the entire curriculum is important and has its defenders. And to try to pick on one versus the other, I really don't think it's particularly fair.
One minute. In looking at the school district programs, music, art, PE, ESE classes, AP classes, our fund balance. We seem to operate in the gray area quite a bit, looking for ways around things. Yes, it's true, Coach Sidaro does have a new job with the school district. He'll be the truancy officer at Key West High School. We're not utilizing his talents appropriately.
Once again, the problem is we're not looking in the right place. The problem is we still have a bloated, overpaid central bureaucracy. When we made the transition to school-based management, when we did it originally in the 70s and 80s, we went from 40 administrators, which is how many we have now, except they had 3,000 more students then. We're still top-heavy compared to that ratio. They reduced it by 26 positions in a roughly 2-year transition when we had genuine community-based schools, because we didn't need a bunch of overpaid people downtown looking over everybody's shoulders, second-guessing everybody all the way up to 100 miles away in Key Largo. That's our problem. When you use up all the money downtown, then you're stuck with these lose-lose choices. And that's where the reforms need to be made. First and foremost is in the district. The job descriptions and the pay scales are not commensurate, and too many of them. And if we give the schools back to the communities, we don't need all those folks downtown.
Is there anybody who hasn't responded?
Well, they may need that coach as a truancy officer at Key West High School because they got a lot of truancy there in that high school. They had 500 students take makeup courses online that they flunked in high school there. Not one high school. They've got an incredible truancy no-show rate in that high school. We need a man down there who knows how to work mostly with boys, I think. Get them to go to school. Maybe that's his best utilization. Maybe that's more important than football or cheerleading or PE.
Maybe it is PE.
Going to school. That's what it's about, isn't it? Going to school. So, I'm not upset he's down there.